As of now, there is still no breakthrough in coalition talks aimed at expanding the coalition. Representatives of Yisrael Beitenu and the Likud met once again today with officials from the finance ministry in a bid to iron out differences. Officials say that while the deal is likely to be sealed in the coming days, if not hours, the sides have yet to resolve Yisrael Beitenu's demand for pension reform, which would ensure all senior Israeli citizens a minimum monthly state pension. The reform had previously been understood as applying primarily to Russian immigrants, many of whom had arrived in the country without significant savings. Meanwhile, the Jewish Home Party also weighed in on the coalition expansion with a demand of its own. The faction said it will only accept Yisrael Beitenu's joining the government on the condition that steps be taken to better brief members of the Security Cabinet on military matters, including the appointment of the Security Cabinet's own military secretary. Against the backdrop of these political developments, the Knesset plenum convened for its summer session last night. During his opening address Monday, Prime Minister Netanyahu stated that he would continue efforts to broaden the government. Hinting at opposition chairman Isaac Herzog, Netanyahu repeated that the door remains open to anyone who wanted to provide support for the benefit of the state. For his part, Herzog, who took the podium after the Prime Minister, said it was Netanyahu himself who had slammed the door not only on coalition talks, but also in the face of international diplomatic relations with European, American and regional leaders. Herzog added that Netanyahu had chosen instead to become a prisoner of an extremist and dangerous political group. Joining me now in the studio to make sense of this political horse trading is IBA's political correspondent, Calev Ben-David. Calev, welcome.
Hello.
Calev, we'd all imagined that by now the coalition agreement would be a done deal. What's taking so long?
Alone, it's the old Israeli game. Nobody wants to be the friar. Nobody wants to be the sucker. Kahlon and Bennett woke up to the fact that Lieberman is coming into the cabinet at a higher cabinet post than they have, despite the fact that he's bringing a party that's smaller than their parties. So suddenly now they're making their own demands, trying to look good to their constituencies. Now, these are serious demands here that they're making. They are some legitimate, but of course, the timing of the demands, just doing it now, they could have brought these up at a sooner date. But I have to say, at the end of the day, maybe even at the end of the day, at the end of this day, that there will be some kind of deal. They have no reason to block it. Kahlon wants to see the government widened. That will help him on budgetary issues when they come to the Knesset. And of course, Bennett has been agitating for the replacement of Eylon as defense minister by Lieberman. So he too will come to some kind of agreement with the prime minister.
So assuming that Lieberman won't pass up on the opportunity to be defense minister over a question of pensions reform, when can we expect to see him being sworn in by the Knesset?
Most likely at the beginning of next week, because it's actually already past the deadline by which the Knesset can be notified 24 hours before, and it's not meeting at the end of the week. So it's likely this is going to be at the beginning, maybe right at the beginning of next week. In the meantime, Prime Minister Netanyahu will continue to hold the defense ministry post as he holds so many other cabinets. He's the foreign minister, he's the economy ministry, he's almost a cabinet all his own right now.
Well, we're expecting the formal submission of the State Controller's report right now, and it's reportedly highly critical of the Prime Minister. How much of a political problem is this for him?
I don't think it's at this stage a serious problem. Remember, there have been previous State Controller reports very critical of Prime Minister Netanyahu, the whole issue with the investigation involving that with his household expenses that also involves his wife Sarah. I think anything short of either police recommendation for prosecution or an actual indictment will not pose any serious problem for the Prime Minister. Let's remember, this is a government that is now taking in a defense minister who has himself been the subject of many investigations over the years. So I don't think right now it's a political problem for the Prime Minister.
Calev,